Hello, how's everyone doing today? I want to talk about a topic that a lot of people bring up. You may have heard my interview with Jan Helfeld. He sort of brought up this issue, and that is, what happens if we get rid of the state tomorrow? You know, uh, there'll be all this crime, all these people, in jail. What do we do about them and stuff like that? And this is a really crazy way. I don't like using the word crazy, but this is not really an accurate way of looking at it because, at least from my perspective, I'm not talking about getting rid of the state in terms of let's just have Congress abolish itself. That's not really realistic. Uh, all anarchists want is to basically say, look, something is either moral or it is immoral. And if something is immoral, no one should be allowed to do it. And if it's immoral, everyone should be allowed to do it. If it is legitimate for government to protect people and to set up agencies such as police, military, courts, then it is legitimate for anyone to do so. So let us compete with you without you throwing us in jail. And that's really what I'm talking about. I'm not saying let's get rid of the Congress and the President of the United States and the White House and the Department of Offense, as it probably should be called. No, because that's not really realistic. All I'm advocating is being able to compete with the state without getting thrown in jail. Not abolishing the state by just destroying its buildings or something like that, or having Congress, but basically being able to set up one's own agencies. And I think if you phrase a question that way, it really puts anyone who is not an anarchist on the defensive. Because if I talk about abolishing the state in terms of let's just smash the state and get rid of it, or pressing that button and getting rid of it, then that puts us on the defensive of, well, how do we know that there are going to be agencies of defense that are going to come in a free market? How do we know that these agencies of defense won't be corrupt? And my response is, well, that's not what I'm advocating. I'm advocating for people to privatize defense, to be able to have a private court system, a private military, a private police, right? Privatize everything, and have the government basically say, we're not going to throw you in jail for competing with you. Now, if the private defense agencies aren't actually defense agencies and turn aggressive, the government has quite a lot of military might to say, you're aggressing against our citizenry, we're going to stop you. But simply competing with someone isn't an act of aggression. And so that's all I'm advocating. And by phrasing it that way, anyone who's not an anarchist, a statist, really has to say, well, this is why I think you should not be able to compete. This is why I think that you should not be able to open up your private defense. Instead of me saying why I'm going to abolish the state. Because I don't want to abolish the state that way. I'm a gradualist. I certainly don't believe in pressing the button and abolishing the state tomorrow. Because if you did that, there would certainly be chaos. All the people on the government dole, they're going to want their goodies. And they would riot, and they would destroy things, and at least in the short term, there would be a lot of death and destruction. You have to wean people off of this. Right? It's sort of like ending welfare. I'm not the president of the United States, and I don't want to be, but for the sake of argument, let's say I was the president of the United States. I would not end the welfare state tomorrow because, one, that's kind of cruel. I don't think it's fair for people who've been addicted to government dependency to just say you're off it. It's like a boss saying to someone, tomorrow you're out of work. 2 weeks notice, common courtesy. What I would do is give people 6 months, a year, to get their shit together, to make other arrangements, and I would say to them, okay, 6 months, a year, no more than a year, preferably 6 months, we're going to end the welfare state. And every week before that, we're going to give you less money. So if you're getting $500 this week, maybe next week you'll get $490, and then the week after, $480. And at the end of 6 months, you'll get zero. So you have 6 months, you have a year, you have plenty of time to make other arrangements. We're not just going to take your goodies like that the next day. It's a gradual process. So I'm not advocating smashing, destroying government IRS buildings. I'm not advocating that Congress just decides, okay, we're going to give up. The way to end the state is to have private alternatives that are better, where no one is going to want to use the monopolization of the use of force because it's just inefficient. And if government is prohibiting competition, and is prohibiting competition when they're not active aggressively, there's only one reason, because government is afraid no one is going to buy their product if they're not forced to at the barrel of a gun. And if they have competition. If no one is willing to buy their product voluntarily, that must mean because it's a piece of shit. Thanks, take care.